Friends, every morning there is a man who parks a 2011 Honda Civic in our bank's parking lot. Faded paint, a small dent on the rear bumper. An ordinary car. His coworkers think he is going through tough times, living paycheck to paycheck, maybe one emergency away from losing everything. What they don't know is that this man has $4.2 million in index funds. His house is paid off. His children's college funds are fully funded. He could retire tomorrow if he wanted. In short, this man has secured everything and chooses the Civic on purpose. According to the Millionaire Next Door research, the median price millionaires pay for their cars is just $31,367. Experian's automotive study found that 61% of people earning over $250,000 drive Hondas, Toyotas, or Fords. Not BMWs, not Mercedes. Ordinary cars that blend into any parking lot in America. Meanwhile, 8% of people earning under $100,000 own luxury vehicles. They are buying $60,000 cars while making $50,000 a year. One group looks wealthy. The other group actually is wealthy. These two groups are rarely made up of the same people, friends. This video is not about being cheap. It is about understanding something that most people never figure out. Looking poor might be the most important financial strategy you ever adopt in your life. The research on this is overwhelming. The people who actually build wealth look nothing like the people who appear wealthy. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent decades studying millionaires across America. Their findings shattered every assumption about what wealth looks like. 80% of millionaires are first-generation affluent. They did not inherit their money, they built it themselves. Half of them have lived in the same house for more than 20 years. They are more likely to drive a Ford than a Bentley. The researchers found that millionaires were disproportionately clustered in middle-class and blue-collar neighborhoods, not affluent communities. This surprised even the researchers who expected the opposite. The explanation is simple. High-income white-collar professionals devote their income to luxury goods and status items. They are playing a visibility game. They want everyone to know they have made it. Actual wealth builders play a completely different game. They understand that every dollar spent on appearance is a dollar that cannot compound over 30 years. They have done the math. Dave Ramsey's research on millionaire behavior confirms the pattern. In the ranking of the top 10 brands most driven by millionaires, Toyota is number 1, Honda is number 2, Ford is number 3. BMW barely makes it to number 6. Mercedes does not crack the list at all. Jeff Bezos drove a Honda Accord for years. Mark Zuckerberg was spotted in an Acura TSX. Larry Page, co-founder of Google, drove a Toyota Prius. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. These are not people who cannot afford better, friends. These are people who have decided that looking wealthy is not worth the cost of actually being wealthy. The psychology behind this choice reveals something important about how wealth actually works. Sociologist Thorstein Veblen introduced the concept of conspicuous consumption more than a century ago. His central observation was this: people do not just buy products for their utility, they buy signals. Luxury brands are not selling materials, they are selling narrative. A $50,000 watch tells time with exactly the same precision as a $50 watch. The extra $49,950 buys something else entirely: the ability to signal status to others. Research shows that people who view money as a symbol of power and success report lower levels of financial satisfaction. They buy expensive things to impress others and demonstrate value, often without monitoring or planning their overall spending. The irony is brutal, friends. The pursuit of appearing wealthy creates the very conditions that prevent actual wealth. Every leased BMW represents a monthly payment that could have gone into investments. Every designer handbag represents shares of index funds that were not purchased. Every status symbol has an opportunity cost measured in decades of compound growth. A 2025 Empower study found that 62% of everyday millionaires still budget, shop for deals, and avoid extravagant lifestyles even after crossing the $1 million threshold. They understand that the habits that built wealth are the same habits that preserve it. The visibility of wealth creates problems that invisibility avoids entirely. According to Javelin Research, cybercriminals stole the identities of 6.4% of the general public. That number jumped to 8.1% for high net worth individuals with assets of $1 million or more. A joint study by Experian and the Department of Justice found that affluent Americans are 43% more likely to experience identity theft compared to the general population. The more visibly wealthy you are, the larger the target on your back. High net worth individuals face what security experts call whaling attacks. Unlike mass phishing scams, these are meticulously crafted operations using profiles assembled from social media, data breaches, and open-source intelligence. Attackers impersonate trusted advisors, private bankers, or family members to extract sensitive information or authorize fraudulent transfers. Synthetic identity fraud is now the fastest-growing type of financial crime in the United States. Criminals use real and fabricated data to open accounts, funnel money, or corrupt an entire family's financial ecosystem. The Federal Trade Commission reported that Americans lost $10.3 billion to fraud in 2023. Investment fraud alone accounted for $4.6 billion of those losses, with sophisticated schemes specifically targeting affluent individuals. Looking wealthy advertises exactly what you have. Looking poor protects it. The social dynamics of visible wealth create pressures that compound over time. When you drive a luxury car, people assume you can afford expensive dinners. When you wear designer clothes, colleagues expect you to pick up the tab. When you live in an affluent neighborhood, the baseline spending of everyone around you inflates your own expectations. Research on social comparison shows that status is relational. It only exists relative to others. Or in high inequality environments, status signaling becomes more aggressive. The distance between tiers widens and comparison intensifies. The person driving the old Honda maintains access to a wider range of social connections. Nobody treats them differently because of perceived wealth. Nobody expects them to pay more than their share. Nobody resents them for having more. This social invisibility provides something that money literally cannot buy: authenticity in relationships. Research indicates that high net worth individuals frequently report a paradox of increased power paired with decreased trust. Relationships become harder to evaluate. They can never be certain whether someone likes them or their money. The person who looks middle class while being quietly wealthy avoids this problem entirely. Their friendships are based on who they are, not what they have. The authors of The Millionaire Next Door created a framework that separates wealth builders from wealth destroyers. PAWs are prodigious accumulators of wealth. UAWs are underaccumulators of wealth. The categories have nothing to do with income and everything to do with behavior. A janitor earning $50,000 a year can be more of a PAW than a doctor earning $700,000. It is spending habits, not salary, that determine the category. The formula is simple. Multiply your age by your pre-tax annual household income, then divide by 10. A 40-year-old earning $150,000 should have approximately $600,000 in net worth. Those below this threshold are underaccumulators, spending their income rather than building wealth. UAWs live in luxury, style, and comfort. They are often highly educated professionals in demanding careers. They understand compound interest intellectually. They just do not practice it behaviorally. The spending habits of UAWs stem from what researchers call the better-than theory. Each purchase represents an attempt to signal superiority. A better car than the neighbor, a better watch than the colleague, a better vacation than the sibling. These financial choices are called million-dollar choices because if the choice had not been made, the person would have had over $1 million. The math behind the cigarette example is horrifying. One couple smoked 3 packs a day for 46 years. The cumulative cost of those cigarettes exceeded the value of their home by $33,000. Had they invested that money instead, the portfolio would have exceeded $2 million. Status purchases work the same way. The difference between a $30,000 car and an $80,000 car, invested over 25 years at 7% annual returns, becomes roughly $270,000. That is the real price of looking wealthy, friends. The cultural programming that drives visible consumption starts early and reinforces constantly. Stanley and Danko observed that young people are raised with the belief that those who have money spend lavishly, and if you do not show it, it means you do not have it. This programming comes from everywhere. Television glorifies lavish lifestyles. Social media displays a life built on curated consumption. Advertising promises that purchases will transform identity. The message is consistent. Wealthy people look wealthy. If you want to be seen as successful, you need to display your success through consumption. This belief is demonstrably false, but its effects are real. Someone who internalizes this narrative will spend their entire income maintaining appearances. They will finance a lifestyle that signals wealth while destroying their actual net worth. They will reach 55 with a closet full of luxury goods and a retirement account that cannot sustain them. The person who rejects this narrative builds wealth quietly. They invest while others consume. They compound while others display. They reach 55 with options that the visible spender will never have. The quiet luxury trend represents a partial correction to decades of conspicuous consumption. According to Bain & Company's 2024 luxury report, affluent consumers are increasingly prioritizing longevity and craftsmanship over conspicuous consumption. Stealth wealth has become a form of modern social currency. A 2024 Accenture survey found that 52% of global shoppers now prefer influencers who showcase practical luxury rather than aspirational excess. The cultural tide is shifting toward understatement. The practical advantages of looking poor extend into every financial interaction. Negotiation becomes easier when the other party does not know your position. A car dealer treats someone in a Honda Civic differently than someone in a Mercedes. A contractor quotes differently based on the neighborhood they are driving into. Warren Buffett once noted that he never worried about being overcharged because nobody knew he was wealthy. His modest appearance gave him negotiating leverage that flashy consumption would have eliminated. Service providers, salespeople, and contractors all calibrate their prices based on perceived ability to pay. Looking wealthy invites premium pricing. Looking middle class receives standard pricing, and this difference accumulates into significant money over a lifetime of purchases. The person who looks wealthy pays a wealth tax on everything they buy. The person who looks ordinary pays the regular rate. The employment dynamics also favor the invisible wealthy. Coworkers who perceive you as going through tough times treat you as an ally. Bosses who perceive you as hungry assume you need the job. Clients who perceive you as modest do not find your fees excessive. The moment visible wealth enters a professional relationship, the dynamics shift. Colleagues wonder why you are still working if you have already made it. Bosses question your commitment. Clients suspect you are charging too much. The quietly wealthy employee maintains the appearance of needing the job while having the security of not needing it. This is an extraordinarily powerful position, friends. They can take risks that desperate employees cannot take. They can negotiate from strength while appearing to negotiate from need. Family dynamics also improve when wealth is invisible. The Millionaire Next Door research found a negative correlation between receiving funds and accumulating wealth among children of affluent parents. The more adult children receive from their parents, the less they accumulate through their own efforts. Giving money to adult children sends a subliminal message that the parent does not think they can make it on their own. The children fail to distinguish between wealth they generated and wealth received as gifts. They perceive themselves as more productive than they actually are, and this creates negative consumption habits. Parents who look wealthy face constant requests for financial support. Children grow up expecting inheritance rather than building their own foundation. Extended family members develop resentment or expectation based on visible financial inequality. Parents who look middle class while being quietly wealthy can provide support strategically rather than under social pressure. Their children develop self-reliance because they do not know there is a safety net. Family relationships do not become complicated by visible financial inequality. The psychological benefits of invisible wealth are difficult to quantify but impossible to ignore. Research on hedonic adaptation shows that increases in wealth create temporary spikes in happiness, but baseline levels return. The BMW provides a thrill for weeks, then becomes normal. The watch impresses for months, then becomes invisible. Each visible purchase delivers diminishing emotional returns while permanently reducing financial capital. Invisible wealth works differently. The growing net worth provides a constant sense of security that does not adapt away. The person knows they could handle any emergency. They know they could walk away from any situation. They know their future is protected. This background security influences everything. Decisions become less fear-driven. Relationships become less transaction-focused. Sleep becomes less interrupted by financial anxiety. The visible wealthy person experiences constant pressure to maintain their display. Every year requires new purchases to signal that they are still successful. The treadmill never stops. The invisible wealthy person experiences no such pressure. They have opted out of the display game entirely. Their identity is not tied to what they consume. The long-term compounding effects create an ever-widening gap, friends. Someone earning $200,000 annually who saves 25% accumulates $50,000 per year before investment returns. At a 7% average return, that grows to approximately $3.4 million over 25 years. Someone earning the same $200,000 who saves 5% while spending the rest on visible consumption accumulates $10,000 per year. Over the same period, that grows to approximately $680,000. The first person looks middle class. The second person looks wealthy. The first person actually is wealthy. The second person is financially fragile. After 25 years, the invisible wealthy person has 5 times the net worth of the visible spender. They have options the visible spender cannot imagine. They have security the visible spender will never know. The visible spender has memories of nice things. They have a wardrobe full of luxury items. They have stories about expensive experiences. Both made choices. Friends. Only one made choices that compound. The Millionaire Next Door lifestyle represents a fundamental reframe of what success actually means. Success is not what you can buy. Success is what you do not have to buy. Success is not the things you own. Success is the freedom you have purchased with money you did not spend. The 2011 Honda Civic in the parking lot represents something its owner's coworkers will never understand. It represents a choice to value compound growth over social approval. It represents a decision to build security rather than display status. The people who notice the old car and feel superior are the same people who will work until they are 70 because they have no choice. The person driving it could stop working tomorrow. Looking poor is a strategic advantage that pays dividends across every dimension of life. It protects your wealth from criminals who target visible affluence. It shields your relationships from financial distortion. It preserves your negotiating position in every transaction. It maintains your children's motivation to build their own success. It provides psychological security without hedonic adaptation. It compounds financial resources without social pressure to spend. The cost is minimal. Some people will assume you have less than you do. Some people will underestimate your success. These are features, not bugs, friends. The goal was never to impress people you do not know. The goal was always freedom. Every millionaire who drives a Toyota understood something that most people never figure out. Wealth is not about what you show, it is about what you keep.